Today, we have here Ms. Deepika MP, Associate Professor in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering from Adi Shankara Institute of Technology, Kaladi. She will be delivering the topic Public Key Crypto Systems, Module 5, from the subject Cryptography and Cybersecurity for Semester 8 Information Technology students. She has an overall teaching experience of 13 years, in addition to an industrial experience as a junior programmer. She is presently pursuing her PhD in CUSAT, and her areas of interest includes data security and visual cryptography. She has undertaken projects in cloud security, passport authentication using PNG image, data security for LPSC, to list a few. We have got an eminent faculty here for today's session, and with great honor, I, on behalf of ASAP, welcome you, ma'am, to the session. And to all attendees, you can listen to the session and post your doubts in the Q&A option available on the screen, which will be answered meanwhile. So thank you, and over to you, ma'am.
Hi all. Thank you, Sriji, for the warm welcome. Very good morning to one and all here. I hope all are safe and healthy at home. Now in this condition, it is very important. Please stay safe and healthy. Okay. So shall we move to our session? In this course, Cryptography and Cybersecurity, the module 5 is mainly about public key cryptography. Public key cryptography is also known as asymmetric cryptography. See the content of this module is listed here. It starts with the introduction to public key cryptography, mainly the principles, the types of public key crypto systems. Then the main 3 public key crypto systems that are RSA, Diffie-Hellman Key Exchange Protocol, and finally the El-Gamal crypto systems. See, the main learning outcome from this module are listed here. That means at the end of or after the completion of this module, you will be able to understand the public key encryption techniques, and you will be able to differentiate between private and public key cryptography, investigate the distribution of prime numbers and different prime factorization method of a composite number, then understand the encryption and decryption in the case of RSA. Then you will be able to understand discrete logarithm and its applications. Then understand the working of Diffie-Hellman key exchange protocol. Then finally understand the encryption and decryption in the case of El-Gamal crypto system. So in the previous session of cryptography and cybersecurity, Professor Anwar handled the first part, I think till RSA, including RSA algorithm. So the first 4 learning outcomes are already covered. In this session, in the rest 3 outcome, we will be covering the first 2 in this session. That means after this session, you will be able to understand discrete logarithm and its applications. Then understand the working of Diffie-Hellman key exchange protocol. So this module continues with public key crypto system and describe one of the earliest and simplest asymmetric scheme, that is Diffie-Hellman key exchange protocol. This protocol is it is for key exchange. That means Diffie-Hellman key exchange is a protocol for key exchange, and its security is based on the computational hardness of solving discrete logarithm. So we will begin this session with the definition of discrete logarithm. We will then describe Diffie-Hellman key exchange protocol. After that, we will be discussing about the security in the case of Diffie-Hellman key exchange and how it by itself is vulnerable against man-in-the-middle attack. I hope you all are familiar with the term man-in-the-middle attack, which is an act of attack where the attacker fools the communicating parties to share their keys with the attacker as opposed to each other. I hope you are all are comfortable with that term. So let's start off by reviewing the ordinary logarithm, because discrete logarithm share similarities and properties of normal logarithm. So in mathematics, the logarithm is, I know you all are comfortable these topics, but I just want to mention these things. The logarithm is the inverse function to exponentiation. That means the logarithm of a given number x is the exponent to which another fixed number, we can say the base b, must be raised to produce that number x. We can say that in the simplest case, we can say that the logarithm counts the number of occurrences of the same factor in repeated multiplication. The logarithm of a number x to the base b is denoted as log of x to the base b. See here, log of x to the base b is equal to y, exactly if b raised to y is equal to x. We can note an example here. Since 1000 is equal to 10 raised to 3, 10 into 10 into 10. So the log of 1000 to the base 10 is 3. Okay. So we have three widely used base while we consider logarithm. That are the base are e, 10 and 2. Based on that, there are three cases here: natural logarithm, common logarithm and binary logarithm. In the case of natural logarithm, we all know that it has the number e as its base. Where that means the base b is equal to 2.718 as its base. The value of e is approximately 2.718, and its use is widespread in mathematics and physics. It is represented as ln of x, that is logarithm of x to the base e. The second one is common logarithm, that is the logarithm base 10 is called common logarithm and has many applications in science and engineering. It is represented as log of x, that is logarithm of x to the base 10. Okay, the third one is binary logarithm. The binary logarithm uses base 2. That means the b is 2 here and is commonly used in computer science, and it is represented as lg of x, that is logarithm to the base 2. See, the logarithm can have decimal values like 2.5, 6.081, etc. It can have negative values as well. See the example here, I have noted one example here. The logarithm of 26 to the base 10. What is the logarithm of 26 base 10? That is equal to 1.41497. That means 10 raised to 1.41497 is 26. Then what about logarithm of 0.01 to the base 10? That is equal to 2 minus 2. That means 10 raised to minus 2 is equal to 0.01. Okay, so coming to our topic, the discrete logarithm. The simplified idea of discrete logarithm is to return only the integers. Okay, discrete logarithm are fundamental to number of public key algorithms, including Diffie-Hellman key exchange algorithm that we will see today, and the digital signature algorithm. So these are the discrete logarithm are fundamental to a number of public key algorithms. Okay, in the case of modular arithmetic, to find the discrete logarithm of a number, say b, modulo p, where p is the prime number, we have to find a unique exponent such that B is equal to A raised to I mod P, where I is greater than or equal to 0 and less than or equal to P minus 1. Okay, this exponent I is referred as the discrete logarithm of the number B for the base A mod P. We can denote this as d log of B to the base A comma P. Here one more important point is there. If A is a primitive root of P, then it always, that means the discrete logarithm always exists. Otherwise, it may not. That means the requirements are P is a prime number and A is the primitive root of this prime number P. Okay. I hope you know what is primitive root. I will just mention that what is primitive root. If A is a primitive root of n, then its powers a raised to 1, a raised to 2, etc., a raised to 5 of n are distinct values and all are relatively prime to n. Okay, if A is a primitive root of n, then its powers a raised to 1, a raised to 2 through a raised to 5 of n are distinct values and are all relatively prime to n. Okay, just consider one example. Suppose 19, prime number 19, its primitive roots are 2, 3, 10, 13, 14 and 15. That means 2 raised to 1, 2 raised to 2, 2 raised to 3, etc. to 2 raised to 19 minus 1, because here 19 is a prime number. The phi of a prime number will be that number minus 1. So phi of 19 is 18, 19 minus 1. So 2 raised to 1, 2 raised to 2, 2 raised to 3, etc. 2 raised to 5 of n are distinct values and all are relatively prime to n. Okay, so for 19, the primitive roots are 2, 3, 10, 13, 14 and 15. Okay, back to the discrete logarithm. In the case of modular arithmetic, to find the discrete logarithm of a number B to the base number B mod P, we have to find a unique exponent such that B is equal to A raised to I mod P. This exponent I is the discrete logarithm of the number B to the base A and that primitive number A and P. Okay. we can consider an example here. See, a discrete logarithm of 6 to the base 3 and 19 is equal to 8, because 6, we can write 6 as 3 raised to 8 mod 19. Okay, so discrete logarithm of 6 to the base 3 comma 19 will be 8. Okay, so finding discrete logarithm is generally a hard problem. That means finding that unique exponent is generally a hard problem. So that is all about the discrete logarithm. If you have any doubts, you can ask now about the discrete logarithm. Actually, this discrete logarithm and primitive roots are the topics in module 1. If you have any doubts, you can ask now.
Ma'am, as of now, we haven't received any doubts from the questions. So I think it's better
Okay.
for you to continue the session.
Okay.
Thank
So now we know what is discrete logarithm is. Now let's see what is Diffie-Hellman key exchange protocol. Simply, we can say that Diffie-Hellman key exchange protocol enables the communicating parties, or we can say two users, to establish a secret key using a public key scheme. which is based on discrete logarithm. It is one of the earliest and simplest public key crypto system. The main purpose of this algorithm is to enable two users to securely exchange a key that can then be used for subsequent encryption of messages. Okay, so this Diffie-Hellman key exchange algorithm depends for its effectiveness on the difficulty of computing this discrete logarithm. For computing that difficulty of computing that unique exponent. So this algorithm depends for its effectiveness on the difficulty of computing that discrete logarithm. So let's see the algorithm in detail. In this scheme, there are two publicly known numbers, or we can say the two users agree on two numbers which may be publicly known and available to everyone. That means these two values, these two numbers are public, global values. One second. So here, the first number is a prime number, and the second number is an integer alpha, which is a primitive root of that prime number q, and that should be less than q. Okay, so the global elements here are a prime number q and a primitive root of that prime number q, and that should be less than q. Okay, suppose the situation is, suppose the user A and B wish to exchange a key. So in the situation, user A selects a random integer xa, that is private. User A selects a random integer xa, which is less than q, and the user A calculates or compute ya. Okay, the computation is shown here. Ya is equal to alpha raised to xa mod q, where alpha is the primitive root of q and xa is the user A's private quantity. So public quantity ya is computed based on the user A's on private quantity. Okay. Similarly, user B independently selects a random integer xb, which is less than q, and compute yb, that is equal to alpha raised to xb mod q, same as user A. Here in each side, user A and user B keeps the x value as private. Okay, here xa and xb are private values and makes the y value available to each other. That means y value is public, or we can say that y value is declared as public. Okay, so in the next step, both the users compute the secret key k. The computation is like the calculation of secret key by user A is k is equal to yb, that means the public quantity of user B raised to xa, that means the private quantity of user A only. So the calculation of secret key by user A is equal to the public quantity of user B raised to private quantity of user A mod q, that is yb raised to yxa mod q. User B compute the key k, that means the calculation of secret key by user B is equal to ya, that means the public quantity of user A raised to the private quantity of user B mod q. Okay, the result is that the two sides have exchanged. See, k computed, user A computed k and user B computed k. So the result is that the two sides have exchanged a secret key without physically exchanging the same or without physically exchanging the key. They have exchanged a secret key without physically exchanging the key. Actually, these two calculations produce the identical results. See, user A computes the key as k is equal to yb raised to xa mod q, and user B computes the key as k is equal to ya raised to xb mod q. These two calculations produce the identical result. See, at the side of user A, the calculation of k is equal to yb raised to xa mod q. Okay, we know yb. See, yb is equal to alpha raised to xa mod q. So we can substitute for yb. So that will be alpha raised to xb mod q raised to xa mod q. By the rules of modular arithmetic, we can write it as xb alpha raised to xb xa mod q. Okay, so that will be same. That will be similar to alpha raised to xb xa mod q, that we can write it as alpha raised to xa xb mod q. Okay, see, we are distributing that mod q. That means by the rules of modular arithmetic, we can write it as alpha raised to xa mod q raised to xb mod q. See this quantity, alpha raised to xa mod q. This is ya. So that will become ya raised to xb mod q. See, here we started from here, k is equal to yb raised to xa mod q. Then we reached here ya raised to xb mod q. This is nothing but the computation of key at the user B. Okay, so these two calculations produce identical results, same result. So that k, capital letter K will be same. Okay, and here about the security of Diffie-Hellman key exchange. See here XA and XB are private quantity. So the intruder only has Q, alpha, YA, YB to work with. That means the two global quantities and the two public quantities computed by the user A and user B. So the intruder only has these four quantities to work with. Thus the intruder is forced to take a discrete logarithm to determine the key. So it is very difficult to calculate the discrete logarithm. It is a hard problem. See, this figure shows a simple protocol that makes use of Diffie-Hellman calculation. Here the user A wishes to set up a connection with user B and use a secret key K to encrypt the messages on the connection in future. That means user A and B set up a connection and they exchange a secret key K using the Diffie-Hellman key exchange calculation. Then they can use K to encrypt the messages on the connection in future. So let's check an example. Here, the communicating parties are Alice and Bob. So this Alice and Bob agree on the two quantities. That means there are two public quantities, that is Q and alpha. Here Q is 13 and alpha is equal to 6. 13 is a prime number and alpha 6 is the primitive root of 13. So Alice selects a private quantity XA and that is equal to 5 here, and she computes the public quantity, that is YA. The computation is shown here. Okay, the computation is shown here. Ya is equal to 6 raised to 5. That means alpha raised to xa. Alpha is 6 and xa is the private quantity of Alice is 5 mod q, that is mod 13, and that public quantity is equal to 2. Similarly, Bob selects a private quantity xp that is equal to 4 and compute public quantity that is yb that is equal to 6 raised to 4. That means alpha raised to xb, that is xb as the private quantity of Bob. So 6 raised to 4 mod 13 and the result is 9. So Alice is having the private quantity xa 5 and public quantity y is equal to 2. And Bob is having his private quantity xb that is equal to 4 and public quantity yb that is equal to 9. So in the next step, Alice transmit the public quantity to Bob and Bob receives YA that is equal to 2 from Alice. And also Alice received YB that is equal to 9 from Bob. So now Alice is having her own private quantity, her own public quantity and the public quantity of Bob. And Bob is having his own private quantity and his own public quantity and the public quantity of Alice. Okay. So let's see the secret key calculation at Alice side. It is equal to, the k is equal to the common key, secret key calculation k is equal to 9 raised to 5. That is what the 9 is the public quantity of Bob raised to 5 the private quantity of Alice mod 13 that is equal to 3. Similarly, the calculation of secret key by Bob, that is k is equal to 2 raised to 4 mod 13 that is equal to 3, where 2 is the public quantity of Alice and 4 is the private quantity of Bob. Mod 13 is equal to 3. So the common key is, common secret key is 3. See, here Alice and Bob exchanged the secret key 3 without physically exchanging the same. Okay. I think all are comfortable.
Ma'am, yes, ma'am, you can continue with the session.
Okay. So this key exchange protocol provides secure communication between one user and whomever is at the other end of the connection, but it also subject to the man in the middle attack. I hope that term is comfortable to everyone. See, man in the middle attack is a type of cyber attack where a malicious actor insert himself into a conversation between two parties, impersonate both parties and gain access to information that the two parties were trying to send to each other. Okay, it is abbreviated as MITM. So MITM is a type of cyber attack. Okay, we can say that MITM is a eavesdropping attack. So in this image, consider this image. In this image, you will notice that the attacker inserted, see the normal flow is at the left side. So the attacker, you will notice that the attacker inserted himself in between the flow of traffic between client and server. Now that attacker has intruder into the communication between these two endpoints. He or she can inject false information and intercept the data transferred between them. So this is man in the middle attack. So coming to the man in the middle attack in the case of Diffie-Hellman key exchange. See, suppose Alice and Bob wish to exchange keys and an intruder attacks the communication. Then the attack produces as like this. First, Alice selects a private quantity XA and compute public quantity YA that we know. And similarly, Bob select private quantity XB and compute YB. Here, the intruder prepares for the attack by generating two random private keys, that is XD1 and XD2. And then the intruder calculate public quantity, that is YD1 and YD2. Okay, so that is the first stage. Okay, then suppose Alice transmits YA to Bob. Okay, what happens here is the intruder intercepts YA and instead of YA, he transmits YD1 to Bob. Okay, and at the same time, he also calculates a key K2 that is equal to YA raised to XD2 mod Q. Okay, so when Alice transmits YA to Bob, the intruder intercepts YA and instead of YA, he transmits YD1 to Bob. And also he calculates a key K2 that is equal to YA raised to XD2 mod Q. Okay, at the receiver side, that means Bob's side, the Bob receives YD1 from the intruder. But actually, he assumes that it is from Alice. But actual case is Bob receives YD1 from intruder. And he calculates K1. That is, K1 is equal to YD1 raised to XB mod Q. Okay. Then in the Bob's case, Bob transmits YB to Alice. And what happens here is the intruder intercepts YB and instead of YB, he transmits YD2 to Alice. And he also calculates a key K1 that is equal to YB raised to XD1 mod Q. Okay. And after that, Alice receives YD2 and calculates the secret key K2 that is equal to YD2 raised to XA mod Q. Here Alice assumes that she received the public quantity from Bob, but the actual thing is she received the public quantity YD2 from intruder. So at both sides, Alice and Bob calculate the secret key one is K2 is equal to YD2 raised to XA mod Q at Alice side, and at Bob's side K1 is equal to YD1 raised to XB mod Q. At this point, Bob and Alice think that they shared a secret key, but instead Bob and intruder share a secret key K1 and Alice and intruder share a secret key K2. Okay. See, Bob and Alice thinks that they share a secret key, that is K2. Alice thinks that K2 is the common key and Bob thinks that K1 is the common key. but instead Bob and intruder share a secret key, that is K1. See, K1. And Alice and intruder share a secret key, K2. See, K2. Here the calculation of K2 done by Alice and intruder produces the same result. That means both K2 are same. And similarly, the calculation by K1 by both Bob and intruder produce the same result. That means both K1 are same. Okay. So all future communication between Bob and Alice is compromised. Okay. So all the future communication between Bob and Alice is compromised, and that is mentioned here in this slide. See, Alice sends message M in the encrypted form. The encryption is done using the key K2 because Alice thinks that K2 is the common key between Alice and Bob. So the ciphertext C, that is equal to E of K2 comma M is sent to Bob. But the intruder intercepts the encrypted message and decrypt to recover the message M using the K2 because the intruder is having that key K2. Okay. Then the intruder sends Bob either the original message in the encrypted form using K1, that we can say C1 here. It is noted as C1 here. C1 is equal to E of K1 comma M, or the modified message M dash in the encrypted form using K1. Say here it is noted as C2. C2 is equal to E of K1 comma M dash. See, the first case is that means C1 is that the intruder just want to eavesdrop the communication without altering it. That means he just want to overhear the communication between the Alice and Bob. In the second case, that means C2, the intruder really wants to modify the message going to Bob. Okay, so here Alice sent C, but at the receiver side, Bob's side, he receives C1 or C2. Okay, either C1 or C2. Either the message from the Alice original message or a modified message by the intruder based on the case. Okay, so that is all about the man-in-the-middle attack in the case of Diffie-Hellman key exchange protocol. So today we discussed about the Diffie-Hellman key exchange protocol, that is the protocol used to exchange the key, and the security related portions we covered in the case of Diffie-Hellman key exchange, and one attack, MITM, in the case of Diffie-Hellman exchange. So that is all about Diffie-Hellman key exchange algorithm. See, this protocol is vulnerable to this Diffie-Hellman key exchange protocol is vulnerable to such MITM attack because it does not authenticate the participants. Okay, this vulnerability can be overcome with the use of mainly digital signatures, and we can say public key certificates as well. Okay, so that is all about Diffie-Hellman key exchange protocol. See, these are the main questions that you can expect from this topic in the case of university exams. As short questions, you can expect what are the principal elements of public key crypto system. You know the 6 key ingredients of public key crypto system, like plain text, ciphertext, private key, public key, then encryption algorithm, decryption algorithm. Okay. Then the second question is, what are the roles of public and private key? I hope you know this. That is, if we use private key for the encryption and public key for decryption, that is mainly for authentication. Okay, when we use public key for encryption and private key for decryption, that is mainly deals with the confidentiality of the message. Okay. Then the third question is, what are the 3 broad categories of applications of public key crypto systems? The main applications of public key crypto system. The main applications are, the first one is the encryption and decryption of the messages, and the second one is the digital signature, and the third one is hashing. And the next question is discrete logarithm and its application. You know what is discrete logarithm now, and its application is mainly in public key crypto, mainly in cryptography, and specifically in public key cryptography. We have seen Diffie-Hellman key exchange algorithm. It is also used in digital signature algorithm. And the next question you can expect is, what is MITM? That is, what is man in the middle attack? It's a type of eavesdropping. And as essay question, you can expect, I have included the part 1 also, that is RSA related questions also. So as essay question, you can expect explain what is RSA algorithm and compare the RSA algorithm with DS algorithm. See, RSA is a public key crypto system. Here DSA is a private key, or we can say symmetric algorithm. So compare these 2 things. Then the main possible attacks in the case of RSA algorithm, and you can expect problematic questions also from RSA side. The third one is perform decryption and encryption using RSA algorithm. See here you have given P is equal to 3, Q is equal to 11, E is equal to 7, and N is equal to 5. So you have to assume a message, proper message, and you have to perform the encryption and decryption. Then from the same topic, you can expect the calculation of private key if the public key is given. I hope you all are comfortable with that topic. And in the case from our topic, the today's discussion, you can expect an essay question from this topic, that is Diffie-Hellman key exchange. Explain Diffie-Hellman key exchange in detail with an example. Okay. Then the man in the middle attack in the case of Diffie-Hellman key exchange protocol. And you can expect a problem question from this portion as well. That is, here the question is, user A and B want to establish a secret key using Diffie-Hellman key exchange protocol. Then using a common prime number Q is equal to 353 and a primitive root alpha is equal to 3. See, the global quantity are given here, that is the prime number, and primitive root is given here. And see, A's secret key is given here 97, and B's secret key is given here, that is 233. 233. That means A's and B's, the user A and B's private quantity are given here. You have to compute their public quantity, and you have to compute the common secret key K. Okay, so that is all about today's session. We have covered this 2 learning outcomes, that is discrete logarithm and its application, and the working of Diffie-Hellman key exchange protocol. If you have any doubts, you can ask now.
Okay, ma'am. So we have received a question. Student is asking
Yes.
how hash functions are different from public key cryptography and secret key cryptography.
See, hash functions are used to authenticate, or we can say, actually hash function is a function that maps the variable length message into a fixed length uh, code that is mainly used to authenticate the user. Okay, there is no usage of any private and public key. But in the case of public key encryption, we are encrypting the message using private key or public key, and in the case of symmetric encryption, we are using private key to encrypt the message.
Okay, ma'am. I think it's clear for that student. And another question is Diffie-Hellman is secure?
It is already discussed that it is vulnerable to MITM attack, that is man in the middle attack, because it does not authenticate the participants, and we can overcome this vulnerability with the use of digital signature, and we can also use public key certificates.
So another question is that can you please explain once again the difference between public key algorithm and private key algorithm?
That means asymmetric and symmetric encryption, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. In the case of symmetric algorithm, there is only one single key. Okay, so encryption is done by using that single key, and decryption also it is done by using that single key. But in the case of public key, or we can say asymmetric encryption, we can encrypt the message using private key or public key. There are two applications based on the encryption key. So one key is used for encryption, and another key, the second key, the key is used for decryption. Okay, if we are using a private key for encryption, then it is the main application is that it is used to authenticate that user. Okay, and decryption is done by the public key of that user. Okay, then the second thing is the encryption by using the public key. In that case, we are encrypting the message using public key and decrypting using the private key. In that case, it is to ensure the confidentiality of that message, the real purpose of encoding, the real purpose of encryption. So in symmetric encryption, only one key is used, that is both for encryption and decryption. In the private key, or sorry, in the asymmetric encryption, two keys are involved in the encryption and decryption, and based on the choice, that is private or public key for the encryption and decryption, there are two purposes.
Okay, okay, ma'am. Then just another question is, do we have any other algorithms other than Diffie which is currently used? I repeat, is there any other algorithms?
That use discrete logarithm. Okay. See,
Yeah.
discrete logarithm is used in digital signature algorithm also, and one more application of discrete logarithm is one is Zex algorithm. I don't know what is that. One Zex algorithm. I don't know the details about that.
Okay, ma'am. And so I think it's we have reached almost our time. So, and I think there are no doubts from the students. Almost all doubts are clear in the session itself. And thank you, ma'am, for the session. And it was a beautiful session, and I'm pretty sure that students got a good idea on the topic. And we just covered all those doubts and all. And your those pictorial representations, especially the slide in the middle, man in the middle attack slide. So